Welcome to the North State Breakdown with Benjamin Nguyen. The Shasta County Board of Supervisors will meet on Tuesday, May 13, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. at the Shasta Lake City Council chambers. This evening meeting comes at a time of political instability and public mistrust, with a packed agenda that reflects the intensity of what's at stake. From department changes and legal risks to symbolic gestures and strategic power shifts. But at the center of it all is one decision that could define the future of local democracy: the appointment of Clint Curtis as Registrar of Voters. A man with no prior election experience, known for promoting long-debunked election fraud claims, now positioned to take control of Shasta County's voting system. That appointment isn't just a personnel change, it's a warning sign, and the rest of this meeting only adds to the concern. Here's what's on the agenda. The meeting begins with updates from the County Executive Officer David Rickard and each member of the board. This portion is often used for legislative updates and commentary on countywide developments, but also serves as a window into the board's political priorities. For item R2, Supervisor Alan Long is sponsoring a proclamation to designate May 15, 2025 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in Shasta County. The flag of the courthouse will be flown at half-staff to honor peace officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. R3, sponsored by Chair Kevin Cry, features a presentation from the Shasta County Health Officer Dr. Mu on COVID-19 vaccine side effects. While no formal vote is scheduled, the context behind this presentation makes it far more than a neutral update. In his May 12th Facebook Live video, Cry stated why he was bringing this forward.
Nobody's talking about some of this COVID stuff, and it bothers me because it's still on the FDA approval list and it's still being pushed to children. I'll tell you, for the kids, because that's where I really look into this the most, is even if you get the vaccine, you still can get COVID, which makes no sense. And on top of that, there's a lot of heart issues, especially with young children that are coming, and we're seeing that. And that's documented and that's true.
Statements like this reflect a broader narrative Cry has embraced over the past 2 years, pushing claims about vaccine-related myocarditis that are not supported by the scientific consensus. Studies have shown consistently that COVID-19 itself is far more likely to cause heart complications. In fact, a 2022 Penn State study found people were over 7 times more likely to develop myocarditis from COVID-19 infection than from the vaccine. This viewpoint directly impacted governance earlier this year. At the February 25, 2025 board meeting, Cry voted to block Robin Schurig, Shasta County's former public health director, from an appointment to the First Five Commission. He alleged that she hurt children, citing her role during the pandemic, claiming children were unnecessarily vaccinated.
I just think based on the history of not standing up for kids when kids needed it most. You have kids now that can't participate in sports because they have myocarditis. I'll tell you what, for that one kid that didn't get vaccinated who now can play high school football because they don't have heart issues, matters to that kid. Matters to that kid.
Schurig defended her record, noting that Shasta County schools reopened earlier than nearly all others in California, and that her team resisted state pressure for more restrictive measures. Supervisor Cry's opposition ignored that context and instead focused on repeating health misinformation, despite no credible evidence linking Schurig's work to child harm. Adding to the complexity, Dr. Mu, who is delivering this presentation, still does not hold a board certification in public health. His qualifications were questioned at the time of his appointment in October of 2023, when the board majority voted to approve him despite his lack of credentialing. The decision raised red flags given the board's track record of politically motivated appointments across critical departments. This presentation is less about medicine and more about messaging, and the messaging appears designed to validate Cry's stance, providing a platform for vaccine skepticism under the appearance of official health communication, and appears to validate misinformation that influence county appointments and policy decisions. Next up is the consent calendar, where the board typically approves multiple items at once unless pulled for separate discussion. Here are the items worth noting. C2 increases appropriations and revenue by $168,375 for the Agricultural Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures. This reflects program growth and expanded responsibilities within the department. C3 involves a formal rejection of a $2.1 million tax refund claim from PG&E. The utility is seeking repayment for property taxes for the 2020-21 fiscal year. The county's denial keeps the money in local coffers, at least for now, but the issue could head to court. C4 is a policy letter to Governor Newsom requesting a statewide waiver to restrict the use of SNAP benefits for sugary drinks and processed foods. The proposal, sponsored by Supervisor Plummer, frames the issue as a public health and cost-saving measure, but may face legal and logistical hurdles under federal benefit rules. C5 declares a local state of emergency due to the increased presence of gray wolves in Shasta County. Supervisor Harmon is sponsoring this resolution, likely in response to the recent livestock depredation reports. This is important as it heavily impacts local farmers who have no way to fight back due to wildlife regulations. C12 awards a $621,010 roofing contract to Harbert Roofing for multiple county buildings. This is one of the larger general fund expenditures on the agenda and is part of a broader facility upkeep. C18 adopts an environmental resolution related to the CSA 17 Cottonwood Collection System Improvement Project, allowing the county to move forward under a CEQA addendum. This could affect wastewater infrastructure in the Cottonwood area. C23 adds $200,000 to the building inspection budget for the ARPA-funded Voluntary Nuisance Abatement Cleanup Program. This supports efforts to address dilapidated properties and code violations, often in response to community complaints, using federal pandemic relief funds. C24 formally appoints Christy Coleman as interim director of the Health and Human Services Agency, effective May 13th. She's been serving in the acting role since Laura Birch's retirement. Her compensation is set to over $16,000 per month. C27 adopts a new memorandum of understanding with the Deputy Sheriff's Association, correctional officers, and deputy sheriffs, covering April 1, 2025 through March 31, 2027. It also includes a salary resolution effective May 18th. While this MOU brings stability for this bargaining unit, it highlights an ongoing issue. Multiple other unions in Shasta County remain without contracts. The county's relationship with labor groups has been strained, with protracted negotiations and delayed action contributing to low morale and high turnover in key departments. This approval solves one piece of the labor puzzle, but it also shows how many unresolved agreements are still on the table. The longer those contracts remain unsettled, the harder it becomes to recruit and retrain qualified staff across the county workforce. Back to the regular calendar. Item R4 is one of the most controversial appointments Shasta County has seen in years. The board is expected to formally appoint Clint Curtis as the county's Registrar of Voters through January 2027. Curtis is a former software developer turned attorney, best known for a claim he made nearly 25 years ago, that he was asked to create vote rigging software during the 2000 election. That allegation was never substantiated, but it catapulted him into the election conspiracy sphere, where he remains a recurring figure today. Over the years, he's positioned himself as both a whistleblower and a self-styled election expert, moving between left-leaning reform spaces and far-right denialist circles. His views seem to shift with the political winds, aligning with whoever is amplifying his story. And now, he's poised to run Shasta County's elections. It's deeply concerning that someone who has publicly claimed he can hack an election is being appointed to oversee the very systems he says are vulnerable. That doesn't inspire confidence. It raises alarms. Curtis appeared in the conspiracy documentary Selection Code, produced by MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, which centered on Tina Peters, a Colorado elections official who was recently convicted and sentenced to 9 years in connection with tampering with election equipment and leaking sensitive data. Peters was once hailed a hero in those circles. Now she's a felon, and Clint Curtis is walking the same path. Curtis has no experience managing elections, and in an impromptu press conference after his appointment, he was unable or unwilling to name a single successful court case he's handled related to election integrity.
Supervisor Plummer was asking you about your court cases and stuff. Is there any successful court cases involving election integrity that you can point us to?
That you did. Basically, the only ones that we really prevailed on is it happened before the election.
Okay.
Before the election, you could make them read in the ballot. You could make them read organized people, that sort of thing.
And
After the
can you
election,
give me a name of a case that
I
you
couldn't
can point me
do
toward?
that anyway.
Why?
I'm a lawyer, but you're not allowed to do that.
You can't tell me a case that you've
I
solved and
cannot
were
tell you a
successful?
client's name at all.
That's not true. Come on.
Well, then look them up.
Well, I've tried to look it up. I can't find anything on cases that you've done.
Okay. Well, you'll have to look harder. I don't know what it is.
I want to pose a question. Can Curtis resist pressure from figures like Laura Hobbs and Patty Plum, who have repeatedly attacked Shasta County's elections office for not handing over information that cannot legally be released? Will he stand up for staff and for lawful processes? Or will he bend to the agenda of those who are determined to undermine public trust in elections, even from within the system? This appointment isn't about restoring faith in elections. It's about controlling the narrative around them. And the consequences could be profound. But beyond Curtis himself, the appointment raises even more serious questions about how the decision was made. The background check for the person who will oversee all future elections in the county was conducted internally. The process was overseen in part by Personnel Director Monica Fugit, who is an at-will employee and reports directly to the county executive officer. In other words, her continued employment may depend on staying in favor with the board majority who pushed this appointment forward. An external independent background check would have provided transparency, ensured neutrality, and avoided the appearance of bias. This is especially troubling given Fugit's recent involvement in another hiring decision, the appointment of Sean Ewing as Director of Resource Management, a role that now oversees her own husband, Josh Fugit. She never recused herself from that panel. In both cases, the personnel decisions were made with potential conflicts of interest and little public explanation. The appointment of Clint Curtis may prove to be more than just another headline. It could reshape how Shasta County residents view the integrity of their elections for years to come. Item R5 proposes naming the Shasta County Chamber of Commerce as the official destination marketing organization for Shasta County. This is a symbolic title. It doesn't include funding, a contract, or any defined scope of work. But it carries political weight and could be used to legitimize the group for future partnerships, grants, or public roles. The timing raises questions. Late last year, the Reading Chamber of Commerce scored highest in a formal competitive process to lead tourism marketing countywide. But after weeks of speculation and political pushback, the board rejected the recommendation and declined to award the contract at all. Many saw that reversal as political. The Reading Chamber had previously opposed the recall of Supervisor Leonard Modi, a campaign that Supervisor Jones helped lead. The board is moving to formally recognize the Shasta County Chamber of Commerce, that did submit a proposal during the original process, but scored poorly. Despite its lack of experience, the group is now being elevated by this resolution, not because of merit, but because of alignment. One of its most visible members is Nigel Skeet, a photographer and supporter of Chair Kevin Cry. Skeet has defended the board in public forums and is closely tied to the current board majority's political base. With no financial award, this move didn't require public review or evaluation. But that's what makes it troubling. It appears to be a consolation prize, a way to reward a politically friendly group after discrediting its competition. The message is clear. In today's Shasta County, who you know may matter more than what you've done. R6. This item designates Supervisors Kevin Cry and Corky Harmon as the board's official spokespersons to the California Energy Commission regarding the proposed Fountain Wind project. This selection is politically and ethically significant. Corky Harmon previously supported the project before his election. As a private contractor, Harmon acknowledged the potential for economic opportunity tied to the project.
I'm a business owner here in town, Simple Weeble House, Mountain Gate Quarry, White Rock Trucking. So we deal with reclamation. There's nothing negative about it in my mind for the county. It's all positive income, job producing, and like I said, the risk to the county is pretty much zero in my mind. If I lived in Round Mountain, I'd like to see this project. I don't live in Round Mountain. I do have property up there.
In contrast, previous District 3 Supervisor Mary Rickard was against it from the beginning, and it was instrumental in stopping the project thus far. Harmon's stance has since reversed, and he now aligns with Cry and others in opposing the project. This shift may be viewed as politically motivated, particularly given how influential anti-wind sentiments are among the board's base. The bottom line, however, is that the appointment of spokespersons will ensure that Shasta County will present a unified voice in opposition to the project, despite Harmon's previous public stance. Item R7 authorizes the board to send a letter to President Donald Trump, urging his administration to reconsider planned federal layoffs and warning of their potential impact on Whiskeytown National Recreation Area. This letter highlights how staffing reductions could threaten public safety, reduce tourism revenue, and disrupt essential park operations like trail maintenance, wildfire mitigation, and visitor services. If that sounds familiar, it's because I covered this exact issue in episode 35 of the North State Breakdown. In that episode, we examined how national-level cuts proposed under Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, could deeply affect local parks like Whiskeytown, even though these programs make up a tiny fraction of the federal budget. These parks aren't just landmarks. They're economic engines, drawing thousands of visitors and sustaining local jobs. Item R8 is an update on healthcare initiatives in Shasta County. While no specific action is listed, the discussion is expected to touch on the current direction of the Health and Human Services Agency, which has seen significant leadership changes in recent months. Item R9 is a resolution committing the Board of Supervisors to the goal of reaching functional zero veteran homelessness in Shasta County. The term functional zero doesn't mean that no veteran will ever experience homelessness. It means that when it does occur, the system has the capacity to quickly identify, house, and support that individual, essentially ending chronic homelessness among veterans by ensuring it is rare, brief, and non-recurring. The resolution positions the county to collaborate more closely with regional partners, including housing providers, the VA, and state and federal agencies. It also opens the door to additional funding opportunities tied to measurable outcomes. This move aligns with a broader state and federal push to address homelessness through data-driven approaches. But local context matters. Shasta County has struggled with housing availability, high eviction rates, and limited shelter space, challenges that often make achieving functional zero more difficult. Still, this resolution reflects an acknowledgement that veteran homelessness can be solved, and that solving it is both a moral imperative and a logistical goal. If supported with consistent funding and cross-agency cooperation, it could serve as a framework for addressing homelessness more broadly. Item R10 is a public hearing to review and improve the Community Action Agency's 26-27 Community Action Plan. This plan outlines local priorities for administrating the Community Services Block Grant, or CSBG, a key source of funding for anti-poverty program. The CSBG is a federal grant designed to help low-income individuals and families achieve self-sufficiency. It funds a broad range of services, including housing assistance, employment support, food access, and case management. Each county is required to submit a local action plan that sets specific goals and outlines how the funds will be used to meet community needs. This year's plan sets the course for the next 2 years, so public input during the hearing is especially important. Item R11 directs the board to take a series of steps to comply with a peremptory writ of mandate issued by the Shasta County Superior Court in the case of Anderson Millville residents v. County of Shasta, Board of Supervisors, and Patrick Jones. At issue is a 151-acre property near Leopard Drive and Dersh Road in the Millville Plains area. Last year, the board approved an ordinance which rezoned the property from residential to commercial recreation, paving the way for a large outdoor shooting range complex known as the High Plains Shooting Range Sports Center. That approval was based on a mitigated negative declaration, a streamlined environmental review under CEQA. But residents challenged the decision in court, arguing the review was insufficient. On March 10, 2025, the court agreed and issued a writ ordering the county to reverse its prior actions and start over, including preparing a full environmental impact report before the project can proceed. Next up is closed session, where the board will discuss items behind closed doors without public input, as permitted under the Brown Act. These discussions typically involve legal matters, labor negotiations, or property deals. If any reportable action is taken, it will be announced when the board reconvenes in open session. Item R12 is regarding the initiation of litigation. The agenda lists one potential case, but no further details are disclosed. This means the county may be considering legal action against another party. The nature of the case will remain confidential unless the board chooses to take formal action and report it. Item R13 also falls under legal counsel conference, including significant exposure to litigation. The potential case is connected to former Shasta County employee Eric McGreeny. McGreeny previously served as sheriff and later as assistant county executive officer before his departure. The listing here suggests that the county has received a credible threat or claim that could lead to legal action. As with all closed session items, the public will only learn more if the board takes and reports an actionable step. After closed session, the board will briefly reconvene as the Shasta County Housing Authority and the Shasta County Water Agency before returning to adjourn as the Board of Supervisors. And here's what matters. These meetings are being run like a conveyor belt, one controversial item after another, packed in so tight that the public can barely keep up. Whether by design or dysfunction, the result is the same: confusion, distraction, and decisions made without meaningful public input. One of those decisions is the appointment of Clint Curtis as the new Registrar of Voters. At risk of sounding redundant, he is a man with no election management experience, known for promoting election conspiracy theories, which is now set to oversee Shasta County's entire voting system. And that raises the most fundamental concern of all. If we can't trust the process, how do we fix it at the ballot box? That's why this moment matters. We can't just wait for the next election and hope it all works out. If public trust in voting is undermined now, we might not get another fair shot. So here's what you can do. Email the board. File concerns with the Attorney General. Report misconduct to the grand jury. Talk to your neighbors. Show up. This isn't just about policy. It's about whether or not we still have a system we can participate in. And if we want to survive it, we have to defend it right now. And that's the agenda preview.